All right, so I'm breaking this worksheet up into two parts. One where it's just explaining all the factoring, and then the second one is going to be explaining all the solving. That way you don't have to scan through and figure out if you need solving, where all the solving is, if you need factoring, where all the factoring is. So this first video, showing all the factoring. To figure out factoring, you first need to look at what is even in this equation. So in this equation, we have a perfect cube. X cubed is a perfect cube. 27 is also a perfect cube. In order to factor two things that are perfect cubes that are added together, that's called our sum of cubes factoring. That is specifically a memorized way of how to factor when there's two perfect cubes being added together. We actually discovered in 6th period today, whether it's sum of cubes or difference of cubes, you can just memorize this formula. It's a plus b multiplied by a squared minus ab plus b squared. And this actually works for sum of cubes or difference of cubes as long as you cube root the entire second term, including the sign. So check this out. Our a value when we cube root x cubed is going to be x. Our b value when we cube root 27, positive 27, is actually positive 3. Okay? The way you know x cubed, cube rooted, is x is you say x cubed, and you raise it to the 1/3 power. Our exponent rule says x to the 3rd power raised to the 1/3 would be multiplication, so 3 times 1/3, which just tells us that this is x to the 3/3, which is just x. Therefore, a is just x. Our rule also said that sum of cubes is a cubed plus b cubed. So that's how I know I need to take the cube root of these. All right. After this, we need a squared, we need ab, and we need b squared. So then a squared, literally just take x and you square it, is going to be x squared. B squared, you just take 3, you square that number, it's going to be 9. And then ab is going to be 3x. Okay? So then from here, I'm just filling in all of the factors. So we have a is x plus b, so that's plus 3. A squared is x squared, minus ab is 3x, and then plus b squared would be plus 9. Okay, so there's our factors for the first problem. Question number 2. Might not be able to see what this is yet. All right, let's move everything to one side. So subtract 2 from both sides. That gives us 3x to the 6th power minus x cubed minus 2 is equal to 0. Okay. Now, we haven't done a trinomial like this, but this is actually just like our quadratic factoring. Okay. X to the 6th power is an even power, so we're allowed to factor into two binomials. This x cubed in the middle tells us what is going to go in the front of these two parentheses. So we have to have a 3x cubed and an x cubed. 3x cubed times x cubed gives us 3x to the 6th power. And then we just need factors of 2 that are going to make -1 in the middle. So I'm leaning towards probably, the only option is 1 and 2. So I'm -1 here, positive 2 here. That would make -3x cubed. This would make positive 2x cubed. Okay, and then I think that's good, right? That makes -x cubed. Perfect. All right, so we checked. We're good with the factors here. We need to look again. Does any of this factor? And actually right here we have another difference, or our first difference of cubes. Okay, so we come through there and we do our difference of cubes factoring. So what we discovered in 6th period today is that if we actually take the cube root of x cubed, that would tell us our a value of x. If you take the cube root of -1, that's going to tell you the b value is -1. Okay, and if you are struggling with the cube root of -1, just go to your calculator and say -1 raised to the 1/3 power and see what pops out. I promise you it'll be -1. Okay? And so if you have this formula memorized, a plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared, you can now use it with this a and this b. So you don't even have to think about SOAP anymore. Okay? So a squared is going to be x squared, b squared is going to be positive 1, and then a times b is going to be negative 1x, or negative x. So it's a plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. And then we just plug all that in. So a is x, b is negative 1, or you can say plus negative 1, whichever you prefer. A squared is x squared minus ab, which would be minus negative x, and then plus b squared, which would be plus 1. Simplifying, we would have x minus 1, x squared plus x plus 1. Okay, so this is the factors of this factor right here. So all of our factors lined up together. I'm going to slide them up right here. You would have 3x squared plus 2 multiplied by x minus 1 multiplied by x squared plus x plus 1. Okay, and then here's our factors for that second one. Again, this will never be factorable, so we can't ever factor x squared plus x. All right, moving on to number 3. Number 3 looks like it's going to be a difference of cubes again. Okay, so we pull the 3 out. It's going to be x cubed minus 8 is equal to 0. So a difference of cubes does, in fact, pop up. Our old difference of cubes, so I just showed you a new difference of cubes in number 2. If you like the old difference of cubes, this is what you would do, right? You would go a squared, ab, b squared. And then you would follow SOAP. So SOAP says same sign, opposite sign, always positive. And then you just cube root only the variable and the number. So we go here. So a is x, b is 2, and then we fill it in. So it's going to be x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4, because a squared is x squared, b squared is 4, and a times b would be 2x. All right, and so then all of our factors, we just put that 3 out front, and there's all of our factors for this problem. All right, number 4, let's take a look at this one. Trinomial. Looks like x comes out of everything, and it looks like 4 also comes out of everything, so let's pull that 4x to the front. That's going to give us x squared minus 6x plus 9 is equal to 0. So we know how to factor x squareds. So it's going to be x and x. 9 tells us 3 and 3, and then they're both negative, which does make negative 3x. So there's our factors, 4x times x minus 3 times x minus 3. Okay, if you want to simplify that and make it x minus 3 squared, that's totally fine, but I'm also good just leaving it just like that. Number 5, again, we're at a 3-termer. X squared in the middle tells us that it's going to be x squared and x squared in the front. Okay, so anytime you have 3 terms, this is the only way you can factor it. Okay, it's just 2 binomials. You're creating 2 parentheses with 2 things in them. 4 plus negative in the middle. So negative in the middle tells us minus and minus. Positive 4 tells us 1 and 4 are our only options. So we have 1 and 4. Does that make negative 5x squared? Negative 4 and negative 1 does make negative 5, so we're good. We check, can this factor anymore? Now we have a difference of squares and a difference of squares, so we're going to have to factor twice more actually. So this is x plus 2, x minus 2, and then this is x plus 1, x minus 1. So this, all 4 of these terms would be the 4 factors of number 5. Alrighty, let's take a look at number 6. Again, we're getting hit with 3 terms. Okay, so this is breaking it into 2 sets of parentheses. Both of them are x squareds because of this x squared in the middle, and knowing that x squared times x squared makes x to the 4th power. And if you don't remember that, right, it's the exponent rules. X squared times x squared, you would go x to the 2 plus 2, which gives you x to the 4th. All right, factors of 14 that make 9. It's positive, so those are both negative because of the negative in the middle. Positive at the end tells us signs match. Negative in the middle tells us that they're both negative. So from here we need, this looks like 7 and 2, so 7 and 2. And then you ask yourself, am I good? So -2, -7 does make -9, so we're good there. And then we say, do any of these factor more? And it doesn't look like they do, so then factors are good right here. All right. This next one, number 7, is by far the craziest one that you're ever going to see, okay? And I don't think I would ever even put this one on a test because it's really hard. So, right here, perfect square, also a perfect cube. And right here, perfect square, also a perfect cube. The reason I would never put this on a test is because if you accidentally do difference of cubes in the first step here, you're not going to get all of the factors. So I prefer to not mess with a question like this on a test. But start with the difference of cubes, or difference of squares, sorry. If we're doing difference of squares, that means we just square root both of the terms. A is going to be x to the 3rd power. B is going to be 8. All right? We know x to the 3rd because x to the 6th raised to the 1/2. 6 times 1/2 is x to the 3rd. All right? And then that's all we need for difference of squares because the rule is a plus b, a minus b. So then we go x cubed plus 8 and x cubed minus 8. And here's why this question gets crazy, right? Now we have sum of cubes and a difference of cubes. So then now we need to do both of these. But if you remember what I said, always stick to this, right? A squared, AB, b squared. And then if you only want to memorize one thing, memorize plus, minus, plus. And then we're going to take the cube root of the first, cube root of the second, cube root of the first, cube root of the second. So for our left side, I'll make these in teal here. A is equal to x, b is equal to positive 2. On the right side, I'll make them in red, so a is equal to x, b is equal to negative 2. Okay, so then going through this, we now know a squared is x squared, b squared is 4, a times b is 2x. For this other side, we know a squared is x squared, b squared is positive 4, and a times b is negative 2x. Now we go through and we just fill in this rule with all of our a's, b's, a squareds, and b squareds. So on the teal side, we have x plus 2, x squared minus 2x plus 4. On the red side, we have x plus negative 2. We have x squared minus negative 2x, and then we have plus 4. Simplifying this, it's x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4. All right, so there is our two factors. Remember, the quadratic will never factor here, so then we're good. Rewriting this as its whole thing, you say x plus 2, x squared minus 2x plus 4, x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4, right? So these are the 4 factors of x to the 6 minus 64. So kind of crazy because we have to do sum of cubes and difference of cubes in this one. And we started the question with a difference of squares. Okay, moving on to number 8. Let's go to a different color here. Back to 3 terms. 3 terms are hopefully the easier ones for us, right? So this is x squared and x squared. Negative 15, and we need positive 2, so I'm leaning towards positive 5, negative 3. I think that looks good. And then these can't get factored any further, so we're good right there. Number 9. So now we're on to 4 terms. 4 terms is our factor by grouping. Okay, and every time you get 4 terms, it's always factor by grouping. So just try to memorize that. We group the first 2 terms together, we group the second 2 terms together. We then pull out the greatest common factor out of these 2 terms. In both of them, you can pull out an x squared. So x squared comes to the front. You're left with x plus 2 is left behind in here. On the other side, we need to create x plus 2. So to make 9x plus 18 into x plus 2, if you divide both of these by 9, that'll give you x plus 2. So positive 9 comes to the outside, and you're just left with x plus 2. Now you have 2 terms. X plus 2 is a common term in both of them, so you move the x plus 2 to the front. You get x plus 2 times x squared plus 9 is equal to 0. You ask yourself, can you factor any more? The answer is no, because the only possibility is a difference of squares here, but it's being added, so it's not a difference. If it was subtracted, yes, we would go further, but it's not. So then right here, we're good with our factors. Alrighty, number 10. Number 10, let's move everything to one side here. So keep the highest power positive. So I'm keeping that 3x to the 4th power nice and positive here. So we're going to go 3x to the 4th. I'm subtracting 13x cubed and 10x squared. So minus 13x cubed minus 10x squared is equal to 0. Looks like we can pull x squared out of everything. So I'm going to move that x squared to the front. That gives us 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 is equal to 0. And now we just need to find the factors of this trinomial. So we split it into 2 parentheses once again. It has to be 3x and x because that makes 3x squared. Negative 10, negative 13. So a negative 10, no, that doesn't work, right? Or does it work? Let's think here. I think I made a typo in this one, actually. I think this should be a negative 10x squared right here. Oh yeah, I definitely made a typo because this has to be positive 10 for this question to work. So you're going negative 10 here, negative 1 there, which would be a positive 10. Okay, so typo right here, I'll fix it in the homework. You guys won't even notice there's a typo. But this should be a negative sign. Negative, and then that way we're adding 10 to the other side, so that's positive 10, which would make that positive 10. Okay, typo fixed. Alrighty, x squared, 3x minus 10, x minus 1, no more possible factoring there, so we are good to go. Okay, these last couple ones are just going to require you to multiply things together and then factor and then solve. So, multiplying stuff together. It says the width, the length, and the height are 2x, x minus 4, and x minus 1. So guess what? If we're finding the volume of a shape, we need to multiply all those things together. 2x times x minus 4 times x minus 1. It tells us that's equal to 40, because that's the volume of the shipping container. I'm going to FOIL first, so 2x times x squared minus 4x minus x plus 4 equals 40. Multiply in my 2x now, so that's going to be 2x cubed minus 8x squared minus 2x squared plus 8x is equal to 40. I guess I could have added negative 4x and negative x together to do less multiplying there. I'm going to subtract my 40 over to the other side. So we're going to get 2x cubed, that's minus 10x squared, plus 8x minus 40 is equal to 0. 4 terms means we're factor by grouping here. So we group up the first terms, group up the second terms. 2x squared is the biggest thing that comes out. So we're left with x minus 5. On the other side, we need to make x minus 5, so we got to take out positive 8 is going to give us x minus 5 here. And then we factor out the x minus 5, so that's x, That's x minus 5 to the front, 2x squared plus 8 in the back is equal to 0. And then that is actually as far as we can take this factoring right there. All right, 12. It says the product of three integers, n minus 1, n, and n plus 1 is 240. So that's telling us that if we multiply all those things together, n minus 1 times n times n times n plus 1, we should get out 240. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the n's. So that's n minus 1 times n squared times n plus 1 is equal to 240. And then I'm going to distribute the n squared into just one of them. You wouldn't distribute it into both. So it's n minus 1 times n cubed plus n squared is equal to 240. Now I'm going to FOIL. So n times n cubed would give us n to the fourth. N times n squared would be plus n cubed. Negative 1 would be minus n cubed. Negative 1 times n squared would give us negative n squared is equal to 240. I'm going to subtract the 240 to the other side. Positive n cubed and negative n cubed cancel. So this is n to the fourth minus n squared minus 240 is equal to 0. And now, after all of that foiling, we can finally factor. So we're going to factor this into n squared and n squared. Factors of 240. Okay. I'm going to cheat here. We know negative, so that's positive and negative. We need negative 1. Okay. So 240, we need negative 1. Calculator, please. Let's just start multiplying 240 by some relatively big numbers because they have to be close together. So I'm going to go 240 divided by, it ends in 0, so maybe 15, 20? Let's go 20. 20 and 12, not close enough. So 240, let's divide it by 15 next. 15 and 16, that's what we need. Positive 15, negative 16. Ask yourself, does anything factor here? N squared minus 16 does, so we need to factor one more time. N plus 4, n minus 4, because it's our difference of squares factoring, multiplied by n squared plus 15. And then there's all of our factors. Awesome. And we go one more. We got one more to go. 13. It says, what is the original length of the edge of a cube if after 1 inch thick slice is cut from one side and a 2 inch thick slice is cut from another side, the volume that remains is 6 cubic inches. So this is a nice and challenging problem. Glad I gave this one to you guys. You're honors students, you can do this. So we have to make a cube. Making a cube looks something like this. Draw some lines in here. All right. It says a 1 inch thick slice is cut from one of the sides and a 2 inch thick slice is cut from another side. So we cut 1 inch out of here. I'm going to zoom in to show you guys what that looks like. We're going to cut 1 inch out of this back side. I'm cutting 1 inch off the back side here. Oop. Okay, so think about this. The length of the whole thing is x. Well, then we cut off that 1 inch, right? So then we're going to say this is x minus 1 if we're going from here to here, right? So that's our new distance that we want, x minus 1. It also wants us to cut 2 inches off of another side. So what's that going to look like? So let's go here with green. 2 inches, just kind of like double that size that we just did. So here, and then straight up, like this, straight back, like that, and then straight back down. Okay? So that's cutting 2 inches there. So the whole thing, this whole distance right here would normally be x, but then we just cut off 2 inches. So then the green distance that we have now is x minus 2 inches. All right? So kind of crazy. But Now we have x minus 2 here. We have x minus 2 there. And then we need to figure out the height is unchanged, right? The height of this box, this distance, is still x. So to find the volume of this box, we're going x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 1 multiplied by x is supposed to equal 6 cubic inches. Alrighty, let's do it. So that gives us x minus 2. I'm going to distribute the x into this parenthesis, so that's x squared minus x is equal to 6. Now I'm going to FOIL, so that's x cubed minus x squared minus 2x squared plus 2x is equal to 6. So that's x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x. I'm going to subtract the 6 over. Minus 6 is equal to 0. 4 terms means that we're factoring by grouping. Group the first two together, we pull out the x squared, gives you x minus 3. We need to make x minus 3, so we pull out positive 2, makes x minus 3. Pull out the x minus 3's to the front. That gives you x minus 3 times x squared plus 2 is equal to 0. Can we factor anything further? In this case, no, we cannot. Okay, so we're good right here. Those are the factors. So we've now built all of the factors for every single one of these questions. Now we can go back through and solve all of them. Okay, so if you need some help solving, join me in the next video.